Yeah, a very good afternoon to everybody. And before I came down, my co-fund manager, Sean, actually tell me I'm the only guy standing here preventing about 200 people from having their coffees break. And so he advised me that, I have to be concise and I have to be interesting because, it's a rainy Saturday afternoon and people are all sleepy and usually it's nap time and so on and so forth. So, okay. Here's the game plan for today in order to make it interesting. I have not prepared a lot of slides actually. Okay, I just came with 3 key slides, 3. Okay, which I hope everybody here for the next 30 minutes can have your 2 eyes looking at the 3 slides as we discussed, each for 5 minutes each, and that's it, right? 3 plus 2 equals 5. Very simple, right? So without further ado, first I'll start with an introduction of myself, of what I do. So I started Astral Asset Management, managing Astral Value Fund about 1 year ago. But that's after working for a Hong Kong family office together with my co-founder, Sean, for the last 8 years. And during that period, and once we started the fund, we actually employed value investing strategy for Asia-focused stocks. And here I am today to share some of these investing strategy, which I hope will be useful. And bearing in mind, I tailored the presentations for individual investors because I think that's what most of you are here for. Because you'll be thinking, right? I mean, for fund managers who are doing this full-time, you share with me your strategy. Is it really useful for me? I'm not doing this full-time. Right? How many of you are full-time investors? Anyone? I mean, there are some, but most of you, I believe, has to basically do your daily work and actually look into investment whenever time you have. Okay, so the idea here is actually to share some of these investment strategies and make it applicable for you, right? And at the same time, it's based on our real experience and based on our real results, and I hope that will be useful for you. So the first slide is actually on how to select stocks, okay? We talk a lot about having financial valuations. Financials and valuations are actually everybody's key focus, right? Companies release their financial results. If you go to a Bloomberg or Reuters terminal, they give you lots of ratios, comparables, any kind, right? In terms of understanding a company profitability, company's debt level, a company's solvency, growth, dividend, whatever ratios you want. If you can go to one of the Bloomberg terminal or gather information from free internet, like Google Finance, Yahoo Finance, you have all these ratios all work out for you. I think everybody is very familiar with this, and when you have the financials, what can you do? You can look at the trends, right, of the company. By looking at the trends, you understand how the company is performing over the years, and by comparing with the industry and sector peers, you understand how the company is performing relative to other players, to competitors. I think this part, without doubt, everybody is very familiar with it, okay? But what I want to emphasize or introduce today is actually we look at stocks and select them based on a 3-pronged approach, basically not only on this dimension, okay? And if on this dimension, right, some of you will say, hey, the robots can do this, right? Robots can do this. Because robots can do it faster than humans, literally. If you program it well or you have algorithms, you have all these ratios work out for you, right? But what else is needed that I wanted to highlight and share some of our perspective is understanding a business, the company itself, what the company actually does is very important, right? The financials of a forestry company is distinctly different from the financials of a company that sells coffee. It's very different from a company that deals with mining, so on and so forth. But understanding the business model, what I meant here is you really understand what the company is doing, how does it make money, what kind of product does it produce, right? Don't buy stocks because the stock code 8888 is good, right? And the financials are good. You buy stock because you really understand what the company is doing, who are its competitors, how does it position itself, why? Because as fundamental-driven fund managers, we are very concerned about whether the company can deliver earnings, right? Only with substantial earnings as well as earnings growth, if any, then the share price will rise or fall, rise accordingly. right? If the company is perpetually losing money, right? And if the share price is rising, is this sustainable? Probably not. Or you get into some of the cases where we discussed just now, the frauds or the scams, right? Where the books are cooked and share price sort of reflected the cookbooks, okay? But if you look at the business itself, please understand where they're coming from, all right? What customer segments, what are the distribution network, and what are the potentials for growth? Okay, then some of you say, hey, unfair lah, where I get all this information, right? This information today is widely available, all right? They are not hidden somewhere in your bed sheet or only given to distinguished fund managers and all this. With access, availability of information these days, right? If you look at company announcements that you're following, all these informations are made available. What are the company plans, right? If you read the management's report, they will tell you what the company plan to do, right? Over here, who has done that rigorously? Oh, you see, I saw some hands, right? Actually, that is something that is often overlooked, but it's very important. Next, I put a framework called the Porter 5 Forces. I'm sure you all heard about it before, right? Why do you need to understand the Porter 5 Forces? If this company is dependent on one product, right, and there's only probably one supplier for this product, does it make sense to be very concerned if this product becomes in great shortage? No matter how good the company is, it can't make the product he wants to make because it's dependent on other people, right? That's the supplier side, all right? Then the consumer side, if this company is only supplying its product to one customer, would it be a concern, right? Because the one customer could say, hey, I'm sorry, I don't want to buy. Your price is too high. What happened to the company's revenue? Nothing, zero overnight, right? So this is a simple example to illustrate, understanding the buyer's powers, the supplier's power. What about substitutes, right? You are the guy that today can only make the iPhone. Is there a substitute, for instance, right? What kind of products can substitute your company's main product that you're looking at? Again, it's a very important thing because it's a key concern when substitute come, and usually substitute come very quietly and unknowingly, right? It's almost difficult to basically track. And what about the threats of entry, right? If you know the F&B business, the problem with F&B business is everyone wants to have a cafe, right? Wants to start a cafe. It's very easy to come in. But if your entry to barrier is very high, basically means before you get into this industry, you need to apply for 20 license, you need to apply for this and that, you need to get your access to special kind of resources. Basically, it makes the business very lucrative and interesting because the barrier entry is high. It sort of protects the business, and if there is a potential competitor, he has to clear all the hurdles. And by clearing all the hurdles, you actually have time to react. What you worry most is a guy that come out from nowhere or guys that come out immediate. The barrier of entry is so low that you can always come in and compete as long as the business is attractive. So it's a very simple framework of Porter 5 Forces. And the fifth one, of course, is competition. Is this a very intensive, competitive industry? A competitive industry where everybody is trying to do it ultimately results in one thing. The product price will fall, right? Will make it cheaper. Consumers are happy, right? But does the business make more money? Is the profit margin sustainable? It will be going down to your net profit margin will be going down to the single digits. And is that going to be very useful for the shareholders? Right? So understand a business model, which is the second circle I highlighted here, is very important, all right, on top of the financials and valuations. Any questions? Clear so far, right? Easy to understand. The third circle, right, is the most neglected, shareholders and management. Okay? Some of you will say, why should I understand who is the shareholders and management? They're all dressed in suit. And I saw them in annual reports. They're all dressed in suit and sitting on the best angle, right? But what do you look for when you look at this point? Just now, you all saw one case study, right? The management pay themselves how much? And pay the minority shareholders how much? Okay, first, understand the kind of stakeholders relationship. Is this a state-owned enterprise? Is this a government-linked corporation? What are their objectives, if they are? Or is this a family business owned by a patriarch who is 95 years old, right? His son is 70 years old, and they paid themselves $20 million per annum, right? And pay the minority shareholders $5 million, right, as we have seen, right? So when you look at the relationships, the other one, is this a subsidiary of a state-owned enterprise? And the management's incentive are actually decided by the headquarters. And their incentives is in terms of shares issued by the headquarters companies. What does this tell you? The management is not aligned to the minority shareholders' interests. Okay? So here I would like to highlight is, take a look at this stakeholders relationship, which is often very much neglected in the whole analysis of companies. And if you understand the stakeholders relationship, sometimes it just tells you why the company perpetually will not issue dividend. The company perpetually will do certain funny things, but will not take care of the other minority shareholders, which is a very important section for you and me, right? And every individual investors, right? And of course, if you look at the management on its own, just now I covered about shareholders, do you look at their credibility in terms of how good they are, right? Their track record, or is it understanding that the next CEO is going to be the son of the shareholders? You know, it tells you a different kind of, paint a different kind of picture. So for this slide, which talk about 5 minutes already, basically what I want to emphasize here is use a three-pronged evaluation approach, all right? I think everybody is very clear about financials and valuation because these are the things that has been, a lot of automation has been done. Somebody has done all the work already, prepared all the nice spreadsheets and reports. But when you read the annual report, as an individual investors, please also pay more focus on the other two areas, okay? Next, there are two kinds of indicators I want to discuss with everybody today, all right? Leading and lagging indicators. What do I mean by this? Again, lagging indicators means measurements after an event has occurred. What are lagging indicators when we discuss about stocks? Here, they're all the financial ratios, your financial reports, right, that you receive every year, or the quarterly reports, the numbers, right? These are lagging indicators. Why are they lagging? Because things has already happened, right, before you can prepare a report, right? The auditor came, they audit the numbers. They are useful, okay? But what I'm trying to emphasize here is when you try to select stocks, you can also look at leading indicators, all right? Why is it a good idea to look at leading indicators? Because how many drivers here? Do you drive looking at the rear mirror all the time? Do you? No, right? I mean, you look in front, right? So when it comes to picking good companies, please don't forget the leading indicators. And I have a lot of examples to run through. You know, talk about what are useful leading indicators. Leading indicators, there are two kinds. One is observations, and the other ones are actually measured. Observations means you see. And when you talk about observations, or word of mouth, people talk about it. They talk about the product of a company that you're interested in to invest. All right? You look at the long queues of people trying to buy a product standing outside, you know, a store and all this. All these are useful leading indicators. A company can fake the queues for 1 day, but if the queue is there for 3 months, really difficult, right? And you also look at the recruitment numbers, the careers. These are useful things that you see. People talking, all the LinkedIn guys are talking about it. Headhunters are talking about it. The expansion is there. Customer feedbacks, new policies and regulations. Also very important, right? Remember recently there's a new policy announcing that they're going to be a 4th telco in Singapore. Is that a leading indicator? What happened to the other 3? Okay, there will be a 4th guy eating their lunch, right? And consumers are happy, right? Are the 3 companies happy? They are not happy, okay? Regardless of what you say, some part of market share will go to the 4th one, isn't it? There will be some loss of revenue, isn't it? Because are there more, do you all carry 4 phones these days? No, we only carry 1 or 2 phones, right? So the market is saturated, right? You have a new policy announcement, which is a leading indicator. What does it straight away tell you, right? It has implications. So I'm trying to emphasize here is, in our daily life, when we read newspaper, it's just not a read about bad news or, you know, disaster and all this. Look out for leading indicators, right? It's not measured because do I know how many % of the 3 telcos market share will be lost? I don't know. But do I know that it will be lost? Yes. Okay? Then we talk about measurements. Measurements are numbers that you can actually get, right? When the companies actually report. And some of them are more accurate, some of them are not. order book, right, is a leading indicator. If I tell you I have no order book versus a company, oil and gas company tells you have an order book of $2 billion, which one is more positive? Obviously, you look at order books, but order book has a problem, right? What's the problem? Order cancellations, right? You can order one, but don't deliver because this year oil price low. Right? So order book, order cancellations are very useful for certain industries because these industries take orders. They produce only when you order, right? So they have to announce the numbers. And these numbers are available on a quarterly basis or as and when their order books are made. So please take a look at these order books numbers, right? Because they substantially will change how the business is doing or the revenue expectations. But remember, a certain industry has order cancellation. The other numbers that is useful are number of new store openings, right? What does it signify when you have new store openings? It signifies growth, right? Then you have to look at the investment as well, the aspect of it. How much did they spend? Are they acquiring or are they opening new stores? Why are they opening new stores? Because it's popular, right? Are they opening in Singapore only? Are they going to China to open? Are they successful in China after they open? So new stores, you look at openings as well. You also take note of one thing, closing. Recently, you all realize, right, a lot of F&B closing stores, right? They are closing those stores that are profitable or unprofitable? Unprofitable lah. Okay, by closing your unprofitable stores, by announcing your closure, what will you do to your bottom line numbers? Improve, right? Obviously, no businessman will close those most lucrative stores, right? They will close the underperforming one, the one that is rent too high, the one that got problems, the one that is not making profits. So take notes of this. These are leading indicators. Of course, there are other very obvious numbers. Occupancy, right? Occupancy is a very common word used for, especially for what kind of business? Real estate, right? Whether you are the real estate of malls, you are real estate for offices, occupancies tell you something. Rental price, price trends. Price trends refers to, in real estate sense, is rentals. In others, the product. What's the product price? If your price keep going down, what does it tell you? Either you have a the competitor that is setting lower and lower price, you have to match, right? All this tells you something. These are leading indicators. Okay, don't wait until you read the financials. The share price usually drop already. Okay? Then you have new product launch, which again, right, if I'm selling one product, this amount of revenue I have, I can go to the market in Singapore, market in Malaysia, market the rest of the world, but that's one product, right? But if iPhone come out with iPad, what does it mean? Another line of product comes out. Your revenue is going to increase or decrease, even if you sell some, right? It's going to increase. So take notes of product launches as well, especially consumer electronics goods. High staff turnover rate, number of paying users, all these are published numbers, especially on toll roads. Toll roads publish the number, right? You can see those numbers. You know how many cars pass by every month, every quarter, and you know that for sure. Toll roads derive revenue from tolls, number of cars passing through. There's no way they can sell part of the toll road away, or they can do. So combining the three-prong evaluation approach plus leading and lagging indicators. What is important here is understand what the companies is doing, right? And besides looking at the company's financials and valuation, which is important because it gives you the real post picture, learn how to look at the leading indicators of the companies that you're interested in. Clear so far? Very simple, right? 3 plus 2. So next, we go to 5. Okay. So in terms of value investing strategies, right, what we like to introduce is the following 5. Okay? 5 forms of of value investing strategy. The first form, I think, is very common. It is what we consider as deep value. All right? Deep values are the companies is considered cheap, right? Relative to earnings or assets or any kind of ratios, comparing with their respective peers. Okay? So I give some examples, right? If you look at one of the property companies, which we look at, it's called Lai Feng. Its discount to NAV is 83%. Basically, price to book is 17. Okay, it's considered cheap, right? But the question, everybody will discuss is it going to be a value trap? Is it going to be so on and so forth? But this is just one example of deep value. Deep value sometimes takes what to realize? Takes time to realize, right? You can hold a deep value stocks. That's fine as an individual investors, because if you know that it takes time to realize, that's fine as well, right? That's the most common form. The second form we like to introduce in terms of value investing is something called franchise. What we like is this kind of companies, right, has a very established track record. And usually they have a moat. It's called a moat business because they have very high entry to barriers. It's not like you and I can just sit here, have a coffee, discuss, then we can go and set it up. Okay? And because of the structure of the sector is in, this margin is also very protected. All right? And this may actually operate in a form of monopoly or oligopoly. Okay? You think that there's no monopoly in Singapore? There are. Okay, there are monopoly business. There are omnimonopoly business that actually allows them to set the prices that they want. Because these two, the consumers have to take the price, right? Unless you don't want the service, which is hardly possible. And one example that we highlighted there is Raffles Medical, right? Over the last 14 years since the Raffles Medical Hospital was set up, if you look through the financials and all this, you could see their growth. Okay, partially they are assisted by the big wave of medical tourism. It's a private healthcare group, but they have also been growing. They have more medical suites now. They have gone into China. They are cooperating and growing there. Numbers very respectable in terms of earnings. The third category we like to highlight in terms of value is fast growth. Fast growth are companies that have been expanding rapidly, and actually they are replicating. That's why we mentioned that scalability is very important. If you are fast growth, you can set up one shop in, let's say, in Ang Mo Kio. How fast can you grow? That's it, right? If you are a shop that can replicate itself successfully in Singapore, from 1 store to 2 to 4, and then everywhere, every new town you see, right? Like some of those coffee and F&B coffee place, then you are scalable, very scalable, okay? And the most important is, can you grow out of Singapore? Are you able to replicate your model successfully from one city to another? Because if you are able to consistently replicate, right, what does it mean for your revenue? You can grow fast, right? And what does it mean for your share prices also in the longer run? Your earnings per share is going to improve, and the share price will reflect it over the long run. So this is one model that we like. Fast growth is not very common in Singapore, but you're going to see that some of the Singapore companies have achieved this in cities outside Singapore. Okay? And the example we gave here is Shabu, which is an individual hotpot company that is replicating its model throughout China. And the reason why we like it is, what does hotpot serve you? Raw food, You cook yourself, right? Any labor involved in cooking? Nothing, but have to wash. Can that be centralized? Centralized. Can the model be replicated? Yes. And they like to turn over 2 hours, 3 turnover. Why? Because they make the seat very small. You sit there. Okay, it's not for one group of people. It's not like the Hai Di Lao model where 10 of us go there and eat. It's for the individuals after work. Winter, cold. You go for your hot pot. Individual, you eat 15, 20 minutes. You pay 60 renminbi, which is $12, and then you're done. Okay? It's very popular in the northern cities of China, and it has been replicating itself. Okay? On top of that, the other financials, valuation numbers are all good. Okay? High income, right? This is what I meant by sustainable recurring income. And a lot of the companies that fall under this list is actually the REITs, because they have to distribute the income and the DPUs, and you have the yields, so on and so forth. This one is very common. And another company that I mentioned here is UMS Holdings. It's a high-tech company, surprise, surprise. And they actually distribute, last year when we were looking at it, they were actually a company that's distributing more than 10% dividend. Very respectable. Now the price has gone up, the dividend is still 8%, based in Singapore. So in terms of REITs, obviously we're going to talk more about it and all this. I have my own perspective of how the Singapore REITs are performing. Because a lot of people will say, hey, vacancy increase, right? Rent coming down, so on and so forth. You can find one section I'm talking about REITs on my radio interview online. And finally, the last category, right, I talk about is turnaround and special situations. First of all, these things don't happen every day. Then it's not special situation, then it's daily situation. And they will be classified probably under the other 4 categories. Special situations don't occur all the time, but when you look at privatizations, which is very common, right? It's in Singapore recently, we look at the list just now. Privatization is more common than IPOs. So this is potentially another category where how do you spot privatization's opportunities, which could be useful, all right? The example we gave here is Popular Holdings, who everyone know Popular do what? Sell books, right? But they venture into property. And what happened when they have to pay the DC charges? Then they decide to privatize. You can see it coming. So opportunities like this, which is visible, is good. The other example we give him is here is Poshing International. It's a turnaround example. They are a sportswear company. They make sports shirts, t-shirts, shoes. Okay, the turnaround came because this whole sector was completely wiped out with high inventory, intensive competition way back in 2013, and so on and so forth. The turnaround came because this company managed to basically turn around its inventory, react to the new market forces, and it starts to perform very well again. But the idea here is you have to spot these opportunities before the analyst does, before the other guys did. And the turnaround situation is a more special thing because it takes deeper conviction, right? Because you all say, how do you know you're going to turn around for sure? There's no such thing called for sure, right? Where got for sure, right? So how do you stay convicted? How do you track the numbers? How do you track the same store sales, right? For these kind of companies. Sportswear company has a lot of retail outlets. How do you follow the inventory level? How do you make sure that you already sense that it's going to be a turnaround compared to the other sportswear company? I think this forms a very important part of your overall value investment strategies. Okay, so I'd like to emphasize here, the examples I've given here are not, does not mean that our fund is holding them and trying to promote them, because I had to give some examples, right? But what we try to show here is basically for these value investment strategies, you can look at them in a few categories as follows. And some of you will ask, what if I cannot find anyone in any category? I can only find in 2 categories. That's fine, right? You start somewhere, okay? By adopting the 3 + 2 = 5, right? Very simple things to remember. You can take away today that if you look at companies, ask yourself, where exactly is the company in the buckets that I've discussed, right? If it's in growth, how do you compare with other companies in growth, right? Is it a real growth, or is there any leading indicators which tell me that about this growth? Or, it's not true. The company is not even growing. Then is it a franchise, right? So, very quickly, I think I have covered my 3 slides as I explained earlier. And I hope that some of you or all of you have used your 2 eyes and spent 5 minutes each on each slide. And if you have any questions, I think we can discuss it in the panel sessions. But as always, right, there's always guys who are more shy and all this. You have individual questions, please feel free to drop a message at our website. We'll try to respond to them because some of these investment questions are individuals. If not, then we can discuss it during the panel session later. Thank you very much.